Before I begin, I would like to really appreciate, by expressing that appreciation for Shruti Dharma's wonderful presentation on the mercy of Mahaprabhu and helping us to really identify more clearly who Mahaprabhu is and what his mission is. This is so significant, as he emphasized the importance of bringing that to the forefront, because until we bring that to the forefront, we can't really take full advantage of the mercy he has given us. That he is God in the fullest extent or fullest capacity of his existence. Sometimes it's mentioned he is avatari, that he is the source of all the other avatars of Krishna. So we can't really understand, but we hear from the great souls who teach us and guide us and give the example of who Mahaprabhu is and what he came to give. Om Agyan Timirandasya Ginajana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya Desatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavind Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Also, Shruti Dharma Prabhu mentioned something that I felt was very relevant to my particular situation right now. That all fear is destroyed by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And I'm really fearful about giving this class because it's way beyond my ability to really glorify a person who is the highest of all existent beings in all of creation and in all of eternally. So please give me your mercy and blessings and whatever else you can do to help me and be inspired to say something that will be relevant and beneficial for everyone. Before I actually begin a talk, I would like to bring certain points to the forefront through the words of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita by reading the first few verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which really is the most complete explanation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in what we say in concise form. So I'll begin with the first verse. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energy, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityanando, Sanodido, Gorodaya Pushpanvanto Chitto, Sando Tamo Nudo. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Nityananda, who are like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gaudiya to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benedictions upon all. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his local plenary portion. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in six opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. May that Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in this age of Kali by his causeless mercy, to bestow what no incarnation has ever before, the most sublime and radiant spiritual knowledge of the mellow taste of his service. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now, these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Verse number 6. Desiring to understand the glories of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appears from the womb of Srimati Sachi Devi as the moon appears from the ocean. So these verses by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami set the stage for describing the pastimes and the principles of philosophical teachings. That is the basis of Mahaprabhu's mission. Here we understand that to understand the Lord means to engage in the process of bhakti. Lord Chaitanya came to regenerate that same process which Lord Krishna started when he came 5,000 years before. But as I think Shruti Dharma very nicely mentioned, that when Krishna came, it was very difficult for very many persons to follow him. And Krishna demanded full surrender. And he makes that point throughout the Bhagavad Gita, that really, before you can understand the nature of the Absolute Truth and engage in the service of the Absolute Truth, one has to surrender to the principles that make up the process of serving the Absolute Truth. But later on, it was somewhat in a conjectural way that Krishna thought, I made it too difficult. Hardly anyone is actually surrendering. And Prabhupada also said that how many people actually were following Krishna's teaching in the Bhagavad Gita until we actually presented Bhagavad Gita as it is. He said very few, if any at all. So, but Mahaprabhu has made it so easy and so simple and so, what we say, joyful. He doesn't say surrender, he doesn't say anything. He says simply chant, dance, and take nice food offered to the Lord in devotion. That's all. The process of bhakti was actually mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in a very concise way, in 3 points. And Prabhupada quotes the verse. The verse is from the time when Lord Chaitanya was at the house of Advaita Acharya. And in that verse, it says that in the house of Advaita Acharya, only 3 things were being executed. And what were those 3 things? And these were the activities of Mahaprabhu when he was there at the house of Advaita Acharya. And he said Krishna Katha, Krishna Puja, and Krishna Kirtan. And Prabhupada very adamantly and with great emphasis in the purport says, that's all. There's nothing else. These 3 things comprise all the activities of bhakti as given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To glorify Krishna by chanting his holy name and to inspire others to do the same. To worship Krishna as given by the spiritual master, as we perform various types of worship in our temples and in our homes. And to hear about the glories of the Lord with other devotees. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hidkarna rasayana kata. That this chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord is actually fulfills the desire of complete and perfect happiness. Simply by hearing about Krishna and chanting His glories. These three things. He says, that's all. There's nothing else to this Krishna consciousness movement. But within that, there is so much. So Mahaprabhu, he came at a time when it's interesting that people in the area of Navadvip where he appeared were quite materialistic. Not only materialistic in the way society is today, because we may use that comparison, but it's nothing like that. Their materialism was so opulent and so grand and so, what we say, nothing was lacking. Everyone had opulence, everyone had much learning, everyone had a lot of good material qualities. There was no lack on a material level. But there was only one thing missing: bhakti. People were worshipping the Lord by worshipping different devas for material benedictions. It's described in Chaitanya Bhagavat and also in Chaitanya Mangala what the situation was the time before Mahaprabhu came. It's also interesting to see because this really sets the stage for the appearance of Mahaprabhu. He didn't come at a time when everything was, what we say, full of devotion. People were highly qualified materially, but they became bored. And therefore they started thinking of so many other things to do with their wealth and all with their time. So they started to concoct other ideas in order to somehow or other fulfill that need for something new, something different, something joyful or materially interesting. So what they were doing, they were having marriages of children. They were having marriages of cats and dogs. Yeah, that's mentioned by Vrindavan Das Thakur. They were spending huge amounts of money on various types of pujas, to Manasi Devi, the goddess of serpents, to Durga Devi, to get more and more wealth and benedictions. Various types of devas just for, and then it says that they would create a deity of a particular deva, worship the deity, and then take the deity and throw it in the Ganga after they got their material benedictions. And of course, there were so much, what we say, scholarly abilities. People would discuss various parts of the Vedas, but they never touched Upasana. They never touched Bhakti. The word Bhakti was something that you never heard. It was all karma, gyan, and various types of rituals, pujas, material benedictions, just making everything more and more grand in a material way. Now, Lord Chaitanya, before he appears, and he does this, the Lord appears anytime, he always sends his devotees to set the stage for his appearance. So he sent Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, who else? Haridas Thakur, Srivas and his sons, his brothers, who else? Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and of course, the best of all, Sri Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya was 52 years old before Mahaprabhu came. So he was quite, you might say he was in his middle age. And the devotees would get together and they would just feel so unhappy seeing the situation within the society. And their unhappiness was because when you have bhakti, you want to give it to others. But nobody wanted it. And people let them know, We're not interested. We got whatever we want. Even we see today when we go out and preach, sometimes if people are too materially well situated, they can't understand or even see the need for worshiping the Lord. Hey, the Lord's given me everything I want. What do I have to worry about worship for? There's people like that. So, this was the situation, and it was all pervading. And then, of course, Haridas Thakur and Sri Advaita Acharya would get together and they would chant together, and then they would discuss that we have to do something to help these people. This is the nature of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is never satisfied with their own spiritual advancement. Prabhupada makes us this point in a very succinct statement where he says there's two kinds of devotees. Those who are only concerned with their own spiritual advancement, and those who are actually concerned with giving Krishna consciousness or the mercy of Mahaprabhu to others. He says this is our movement. This is our movement. We are now never satisfied with our own spiritual advancement. In fact, we are in anxiety. Even though we have whatever we need in our spiritual product, where's that anxiety coming? It's coming from Mahaprabhu. He's full of that anxiety. He just wants to give Krishna consciousness to everyone. As we heard from Shruti Dharma, he didn't miss anybody. Even the animals. And even there's one statement where Mahaprabhu says to Haridas Thakur, Srila Haridas Thakur, how will the non-moving living entities be delivered? He's talking about trees and those living entities that don't have, mobility. They're just staying in one, mostly trees, plants, various. And Srila Haridas Thakur said, by your mercy and through the mercy of chanting the holy names of the Lord, all living entities becomes delivered. So Mahaprabhu even was concerned about the non-moving living entities, what to speak of the animals. That's Mahaprabhu. This is his mercy. And he's giving us that legacy in our Krishna conscious practice. So, Advaita Acharya, now who is Advaita Acharya? He is Mahavishnu. But within him is Sadashiva. He's a combination of these two powerful manifestations of the Supreme Personality. The original Shiva, that Shiva which has a planet in the spiritual realm, Sadashiva, where all the other Shivas in all the universes are expansions of. Plus Mahavishnu, who is the source and the inspiration for the creation of the material existence. These two elements of the absolute nature of the Supreme have come together as Advaita Acharya. And so, in his mood as Sadashiva, because Shiva is also mentioned as the father of all living entities, and he's very compassionate. He's also very concerned. So his whole program, Shiva, is to uplift the fallen conditioned souls to devotional service. So seeing the situation in Navadvip, he is so unhappy. In fact, his unhappiness turns into anger. And he's so angry seeing how people are just wasting their lives. Sometimes we see that. We actually become a little disturbed when we see the idiocy of the materialists, how they're just wasting their time. There's this anger out of compassion. Anger out of compassion. So that was Advaita Acharya, and he's feeling like that. So he was thinking, I'm going to take out my chakra and I'm going to destroy everybody. They're all useless. But no, this is the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in his heart he was inspired to worship the Lord. So he decided to go to the banks of the Ganga and take the Shalagram Shilas and place them on a throne on the Ganga, and with tulsi leaves and sandalwood pulp, and calling with great feeling and emotion for the Lord to appear. He was calling from his heart, calling so loudly. I won't try to imitate that because maybe half of you will leave. He was calling so loud, please, Lord, come. It is time for you to come and save these foolish persons from their ignorance of material life. And it says that he was calling so loudly that his voice went through all the universes into the Brahma Jyoti, past the Brahma Jyoti, and it reached the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha. The sound of his voice. That's how concerned he was. And while he was worshipping, every day he would worship, either in Shantipur or in Navadvip. He would go to the banks of the Ganges and just pray and call for the Lord to come. Now there's an interesting pastime, which is, we also know that before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually appeared in the womb of Mother Sachi, and before her other son Vishwarup appeared, she had actually 8 miscarriages. Now think about that. Don't think about it. That is cataclysmic. I don't think any woman could live through 8 miscarriages. And all I can say is that sounds like that would be enough to destroy anybody. But somehow she continued on. And now how are those miscarriages? This is interesting. This is a particular... When Advaita Acharya was doing his puja, he was offering flowers to Shalagram, and he was throwing the flowers into the Ganga. And that Ganga water was floating down with these flowers, and Sachimanda would come and take her bath in this one ghat, and these flowers would come and they would touch her womb. And as soon as it touched her womb, right after that there would be a miscarriage. It happened 8 times. Dvaita Acharya ki. Nobody's saying Jai. Narada Muni did the same thing when he wanted Krishna to come. he was just telling Kamsa, you got to kill some more children. Why do great souls do that? Because they want to expedite the appearance of the Lord. And so, this is actually the hidden meaning behind this puja. This is one of the meanings. So finally, after some time, Sachimanda Mata, of course, delivered another child before Mahaprabhu came, and that was Vishwarup. Who was Vishwarup? He was actually an expansion of Sankarshan, Anantashesh. And when he came, he was so beautiful and he was so qualified. And the family was very happy. But now they decided to have another child. But how that birth took place, it's not like the birth, all the complicated things we have to do, what they call it, consultation and meditation and what else they do. Consultation, meditation, arbitration, a few other trations. Just to have a child. No. So, actually, they decided, let us have a child. And soon as they decided, they actually prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, please send a child that will be someone who can be a wonderful devotee of you. We want someone who we could bring up to be a great devotee of you, Lord Narayan. So they were praying to Lord Narayan for a wonderful child. And at one time, Jagannath Mishra had a vision. And in that vision, he saw the entire spiritual world and all the great personalities within the spiritual world. He was overwhelmed with love. He was overwhelmed with devotion. And then, that vision, he transferred that vision. It's explained that he saw his wife right after that, and then that vision came to her. And she had the exact same vision of the spiritual world and all the great personalities. And then from there, that vision went into her room. And that was Lord Chaitanya actually manifested himself through the mind of Jagannath Mishra, to the mind of Sachi Devi, and into the womb of Sachi Devi. And she became pregnant. We can't do that. We do what they call the other way, which is a lot of messy stuff. But anyway, of course that's debatable. Anyway. And so she became pregnant and her womb started to grow. But then the child within the womb, as I think we saw from that play, which was nicely done. Did you like that play? I thought it was really, really expertly. The way it was done really illustrated what was happening with the pregnancy. How many great personalities were actually coming to see this child who had not yet been born. Demigods and various types of sages who were unmanifested in their physical form were coming, giving blessings, great personalities. Sachi didn't know what was happening, but she could understand it was something wonderful. Now, a problem arose. 9 months came, no child. 10 months came, no child. 11 months came. He didn't come out. 12 months. He's still hiding. It wasn't until 13 months later, and now during that time, while she was in her pregnancy, she went to her father, Ilabar Chakravarti Thakur, who was a great astrologer and a great devotee. And he also said, this, along with another great Brahmin, whose name is not mentioned, both of them in consultation, understood that a great personality is coming, and that personality will be coming from the spiritual world. So they said to Sachi, he's not coming out yet because the time is not right. He's waiting for the most auspicious time in order to make his appearance in this world. So they became patient. That was in the year 1406. She became pregnant. In the year 1407, 13 months later, what happened? A lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse is considered to be very inauspicious. Especially people in India, they understand, hey, everything's going to go wrong. So we should be praying. Just recently I was in India and we had a lunar eclipse. And can't cook. No prasadam at that time. If you cook, that time, that food is poison. It's considered to be poison if you cook during the lunar eclipse. Nobody can eat, nobody can cook. A lot of people don't even go out of the house. They just stay and offer prayers and chant. But in Navadvip, everyone, when they heard about the lunar eclipse had to come, they all went down to the banks of the Ganges and started offering prayers. And they started to chant the Hare Krishna. Not only the devotees, but the Muslims, the atheists, and everybody else were coming, and they were chanting Hare Krishna, because they felt that by chanting Hare Krishna, this would ward off the inauspiciousness of the eclipse. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set the stage for his appearance by creating this lunar eclipse to get everyone to chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. And the devotees were so excited. Everybody's chanting Hare Krishna. This is wonderful. And it's because of the lunar eclipse. May this eclipse never end. They were praying like that. And everybody was just chanting, and then at the height of the chanting, Mahaprabhu appeared. So beautiful. When the child appeared from the womb of Sachimata, it was so... Soon as they saw the child, they couldn't take their eyes off it. I mean, when you see a little baby coming out of the womb at that time, it's a little hard to understand, his form. It's kind of like really small, but Mahaprabhu was different. He was so beautiful, so soft, so sweet, and he even smiled just to give assurance to everyone. And so the child was there. And now they had a wonderful celebration to welcome the birth of the child. And it was mentioned in the play, giving him a name. So, actually they consulted Nilabarka Chakravarti Thakur, and he gave the name that this personality, after reading his birth chart, said that he can deliver the entire universe. So therefore he should be named Vishwambar. But that wasn't enough. He was born underneath a neem tree. But there's also another element to neem. Neem is auspicious because the tree actually wards off evil spirits and ghosts. So they were thinking, to protect the child, let's give him the name Nimai also, born under the neem tree. And that way he'll be protected from ghosts and evil spirits. But then they looked at him, he was so beautiful. Because what is Mahaprabhu? He is Gauranga. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, knowing he's Radha and Krishna in one. He's not Radharani, he's Krishna, but he's got Radharani's her color and her nature. There's the sweetness of Mahaprabhu. Radharani's sweetness is manifested fully in the personality of Mahaprabhu. Therefore, when you talk about compassion, we understand from the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan how kind and loving and merciful and compassionate Srimati Radharani is. She showed that mercy to a jackal that was being chased by some boys who were trying to kill him. She took that jackal, put the jackal on her lap and petted the jackal. The jackal felt so happy. This is a wonderful pastime. I didn't want to go into the whole pastime, but it's so beautiful. It just shows Radharani's compassion. She's mother personified in the fullness of love. So that's Mahaprabhu. He's carrying that. He's carrying Radharani's love with him in such a compassionate way. So he was named Gauranga because they looked at the child. He's golden. He's golden. But then the ladies, the wife of Chandrasekhar, Malati, the wife of Srivasthakur, Malini, the wife of Sri Advaitacharya, Sita Devi, they all would come to see the child, especially Sita Devi. She would bring so many nice presents. And when she saw that, she said, he is the supreme personality of God himself. And he is golden, so his name is Gaur Hari. She gave him the name Gaur Hari. Now Mahaprabhu he didn't want to waste time in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. So what he would do is that when the ladies would come to see him, and he would cry. He'd just cry. And they would give him some sweet meats, and he'd still cry. They'd pick him up, still cry. They tried everything. He wouldn't stop crying. And then someone thought, hey, let's chant. So it was actually Sita Thakurani, and she started to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And as soon as they started chanting, the little baby, and he's like a few days old, he gets up and he starts, and he's dancing. And he's smiling. He's looking at them. He didn't go like this, but he was feeling like that, though. Like, yeah, this is why I came, to get you all to chant. And then he would dance, and they would sing, and then they would stop, and he'd cry again. As soon as they'd stop, he'd cry. And if someone else came and they weren't chanting, he'd cry. He'd just keep crying. And then he would chant. And as soon as they'd start chanting, he would sing, and he would smile. He wouldn't sing. He would smile, and he would sometimes use his little baby form to dance like that. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his baby form was so sweet. His father taught him to walk. God has to learn how to walk. His father would hold him by his finger, and he would go and go like that, and then he would fall down, boom, pick him up again. He could walk, but he was, this is his pastime. just to show his love for his devotees. So the devotees now were so happy that actually some of them understood actually he was Krishna himself. But he would never reveal that. But when he was growing up, he was so mischievous. You think Krishna was mischievous? Mahaprabhu was even worse. Not worse, better. Prabhupada said, where do you get that mischievous nature? It's coming from God. So, one time he was 4 months old. His mother had gone out and he was sleeping, so she left him sleeping just to go out to tend some chores. So he just broke everything in the house. Just threw everything around, smashed everything, and went back to sleep. And his mother came in and said, what happened? Look at this. Must have been somebody came to attack. Oh, and they called other persons around. Said, yeah, must have been some robber came or some dacoit. And then, because we have chanted so many nice mantras, they got scared and they were going to harm our child, but they didn't do that because we prayed like that. But they got angry and broke everything in the house and left. Yeah, that's what happened. So they would think like that. And then when he would hear them talking, he would just smile. One time, he came to his mother. He was still a little young, and he said to his mother, I want the moon. I want the moon. So she took a mirror and reflected the moon into it, and he was happy. He said, I want some sweetmeats. She said, I'll have to go and get them. I don't have. He said, I want them now. So he ran back into the house and just broke everything in the house. Took a stick, broke the window, smashed her, and threw the butter pot down. Took the rice. Just smashed everything, and then he went to sleep. And then his mother he came out and he said, I'm hungry. She said, I can't give you anything. You just threw everything away. Oh, is that the problem? So he said, I'll be back. So he went out and he came back with 2 tolas of gold and he said, here. His mother thinking, where did he get these 2 tolas of gold from? So he would cause so much mischief. He liked that. He was always very mischievous. One time his mother, she wanted to dress him up nicely, so she put all kinds of nice jewelry on. And he was sitting out in the courtyard just playing by himself. And 2 men, they were actually robbers, and they saw, oh, Goddess Chandi has put all our wealth in one place. This little boy. We are going to make it, we're going to be rich, we can retire from our dacoit programs. So they came up to little Nimai and they saw him. They said, hey, would you like to ride? We can give you a ride. And we have some really nice sandash. He said, yeah. So they took the boy and they put him on his back and they started to go. And they were traveling in different places and they were going through the marketplaces and little Nimai's riding on their back and they were feeding him sweetmeats and they were saying, oh, we're going to take you home, but in the meantime, we're going to give you a nice ride. So they were just making him. So he was enjoying it like anything. But their program was to go to their hideaway, their place, and then take all his jewelry. But what happened was, as they were going, thinking they were going to their own place, they wound back in the front of the house of Sachimata. And Sachimata came out, and then Nimai jumped off and ran to his mother. And his mother was so happy because she was looking for him. She couldn't find him. So what happened? So he said, "Oh, these two nice men, I went out and I got played and I got lost. And these two nice men, they brought me home again. And they gave me so many nice sandesh." And then they went out looking for the two dacoits, and they had already run away because they got scared. This is Mahaprabhu's pastime. One time a big, huge, gigantic snake came coiling into the courtyard where he was playing. And it had coiled itself around. This snake was actually an Antashesh. He came in order to do some service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, little baby Nimai, he's only a few years old, he sits on the snake and he's laying there like this. Huge python, big snake. And he's just enjoying himself. And then the parents came out of the house and saw what was happening. Oh my God, a snake. So they started chanting mantras to get rid of the snake. And then they took a stick and they started to chase the snake, but the snake ran away. And Nimai started to run after the snake when the snake was going away. So they had to grab him and bring him back. But that was actually the Anantasesh, which was Shankarishan, manifested in his form as this multi-headed serpent, just to give some service, offer some service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are some of the wonderful pastimes of the Lord. The Lord performs so many pastimes. His father would sometimes chastise him when he would do something wrong. One time his father had a dream, and in the dream a very beautiful, effulgent Brahmana appeared to him in the dream and said, "You don't know who your son is. Actually, you shouldn't chastise him. He's as good," he didn't say he was, "he's as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you shouldn't chastise him. You shouldn't reprimand him." And Jagannath Mishra in the dream said, "I don't care who he is. I'm his father. And if I don't teach him, who will? He has to grow up right." So his parental love overshadowed everything else. And that was very pleasing to the Lord. Sometimes the Lord would reveal a little about his godlike nature to his parents. They get a little bit bewildered, but then he would cover them over again so they can keep that mood of loving parental affection. The Lord liked that. Krishna did that with his mother. When Krishna was in Vrindavan, there was a forest fire. And that was before. Before then, Krishna was eating dirt. He was eating dirt. And Balaram came up and said, "Hey, Mata, you're Lal, he's eating dirt." Balaram was a little bit older. And so she said, "Oh." So she grabbed him and put him on her lap and said, "Open your mouth." So he did. And when she looked into his mouth, she was looking for some dirt, but she saw the entire universe, all the planets, all she saw the demigods, the planets. She saw herself looking into the mouth of her child, within the mouth of her child. And then she became overwhelmed that, "Oh my God, my son is God." And then little Krishna thought, this is a problem. There goes the motherly affection. I really want to get chastised by her. It's more fun to get reprimanded by my mother because she does it with such love and such care. And now if she changes over and she becomes my devotee by worshiping me as God, this is terrible. This is the way the Lord is more inclined, of course Prabhupada makes this point, and he makes the point quite often, that the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Madhurya, is sweetness. And that sweetness manifests in different forms of that relationship, as conjugal love, as parental affection, as friendship. And sometimes even in the mood of servitorship, that love comes out in a very pleasing way. But ultimately, that is this mood of worshipping the Lord as the Supreme Personality of God is not as pleasing as the sweetness that comes from these different relationships. So Prabhupada says, become qualified. Follow the process, purify yourself through the process of bhakti yoga. Chant the holy names of the Lord, and gradually you'll come to the stage of understanding your relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. And then actually bhakti takes its full form. The mood of awe and reverence is there, but it's not as pleasing to the Lord. Because Prabhupada, Krishna says, he says to Uddhava, the love that you have for me is the best. The prayers of Brahma, Shiva, Lakshmi, Ganesh, and the Devas don't even come close to pleasing me as when I talk to you about our friendship together. So this is the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, but Lord Chaitanya was different. Lord Chaitanya was hiding his godlike nature, but at the same time he was God. And sometimes he would reveal it. There's a beautiful story. Would you like to hear this story? Are you getting tired? Anybody getting tired? No? Okay. I'm just checking. Because if you're getting tired, I can do something different. Nimai was 3 years old. And one particular Brahmin was wandering throughout the area, and he came to the house of Jagannath Mishra. Now this Brahmin was very special. He had nothing. And his whole life, all he would do was go from place to place and worship his deity wherever he was. And just give his mercy and association to others. He was pure. So he came to the house of Jagannath Mishra, and he had been fasting. And Jagannath Mishra welcomed him in, so he was such a wonderful Brahmin, said, "Come, please, your house, my house is your house. Please make yourself home. You haven't eaten in so long, please. We will arrange for you whatever you like, just tell us." No, I've been fasting on roots and fruit, and some simple fruits. I'm going to continue. No, you're actually our guest. You should have full prasadam. All right, but I will cook. Okay, so the Brahmin, they arranged everything for the Brahmin. They provided all the bhoga, and they provided everything he needed. And he cooked so nicely, and he cooked a beautiful batch of rice. Now he had a particular deity that he would carry with him, whose name was Gopal. And he would carry that Gopal deity around his neck on a necklace. And he would take the deity, and then he would offer whatever he cooked to that deity. And he would chant the Gopal mantra also. And the 8-syllable Gopal mantra. And so he finished, and he puts this little deity there, and he's about to make the offering. He chants the mantra to Gopal. And guess what? Little Nimai runs out and starts eating the offering. Hi, what is this? The child has spoiled my offering. Oh! Jagannath Mishra came, saw the whole scene, saw little Nimai there. He grabs a stick, he starts chasing Nimai. Nimai runs, can't catch him. He's fast. He runs into the room, locks the door. the Jagannath Mishra comes out and says, I am sorry. You are our guests. We have offended you. We've given you an opportunity to cook. Now, please forgive us. Oh, no problem. Actually, the Lord doesn't want me to eat today. So I'll continue to... No, please, cook again. We will provide whatever you need. Nimai's gone. He's fast asleep. Don't worry. Well, I'll ask the ladies to guard the room so he doesn't come out again. Please, just cook again. Finally, he said, all right, I will cook again just to please you. So everything was prepared. Again, he went through the whole process, cooked nicely. And then he starts chanting his Gopal mantra to his deity, and all of a sudden little Nimai comes out again and starts eating the offering. Hi, hi, hi! And he's just like, oh, the child again has spoiled the offering. And Jagannath Mishra comes out, what again? How did he get out? And then Nimai runs again. And this time, they can't catch him again, of course. So he just hides. And so Jagannath Mishra is really besides himself in apologizing. He's just saying, oh, we're so sorry. He doesn't usually do that. We don't know what came over him. Please forgive us. Oh, please don't curse us, because you are our guest. Because when a guest comes to the house, the guest owns the house. This is actually the understanding. Grihastha ashram means if a guest comes to your house, that guest is that whole house is for the service of that guest. That's actually Vaishnava culture. It's tough in this age, right? And if some guest comes to the house and you look at them and say, what are you doing here? There's a hell, I forgot the name, it's called Parjatana hell, that you go to that hell. Pretty heavy, this is one of the 28 hells that are mentioned in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam. Guests have... We were traveling... I was traveling in Bangladesh many years ago, and one very wonderful devotee was arranging for me to stay at this house that I'd never been there before. And it was a wonderful family. So I came and I was tired, and so they came and they wanted to wash my feet. I said, I washed my feet this morning, no need. No, we have to wash your feet. And they started to cry, and I said, okay, what am I going to do? So I let them wash it. And then they wanted to offer me arti. I said, oh, this is too much. I just want a place to sit down, But no, they were insistent. Oh, they had to offer arti. And then they cooked this big feast. They had, some of it was already prepared, and they added some more. And they gave me this big, and every meal was like a huge feast. I'm thinking, there goes sannyas. Was so like too much. It was genuine. This was really their heart. This is the name. When you go to Bangladesh, it's like that. Devaki, she was telling me, I don't know if you know Devaki, she travels in Bangladesh. She's a renunciate. And she was telling us that when she went to Bangladesh, she was traveling with 10 brahmacharis. And they were looking for a place to stay. So they found this little dharamshala. But then again, they realized it wasn't big enough. So one family had found out that these brahmacharis and this very saintly lady was traveling. So they came and offered their house. So they thought, all right, we'll go. But when they got to the house, there was 2 rooms and a kitchen. That's all. That was the whole house. So they're thinking, what to do? So the family said, no problem. So they put the 10 brahmacharis in one room, Devaki had the other room, and the whole family, which included the grandmother, there was 5 of them, they slept in the kitchen floor. And they were so happy. Wow, we get to serve these great sadhus who are traveling. This is the perfection of our life. This is what they were thinking. They were feeling like that. This is so... And, the old grandmother, she's not so, supple. And she's laying on the kitchen floor. But she's happy just to offer their house. This is Vaishnava hospitality. That's the culture. I could talk more about that, but there's other things. So, Jagannath Mishra is feeling like, my life is ruined. This guest has come and we haven't been able to please him. So, this time the Brahmin said, I'm not cooking. That's it. It's obvious the Lord does not want me to eat today. I will continue my fast. And then what happened? Vishwarup comes out. And then he starts walking out. And the Brahmin's going, who's that? Is that your son? Yes, he's my eldest son, Vishwarup. Wow. And then Vishwarup spoke, my dear Brahmana, you have blessed our house by your presence. We are so happy and honored. Our life is perfect because of your presence. Please cook again. He didn't know what to say. And then Jagannath Mishra came and said, please cook again. We would feel very happy. All right. So this time it was getting close to midnight. It was really late. So this time everybody was in the house, went to sleep, and the Brahmin was cooking. Finally he finished it. It was around midnight. Now he's ready to make the offering again. So he puts his deity there, he sits down and folded hands and he's praying, my dear Lord, and he chants the mantra, please come and take your food. And guess